The darkness was a blurred canvas of distant stars through my cabin's viewport. The Peregrine, once a state-of-the-art research vessel, was now a cold metal capsule, silently navigating an uncharted sector of the Andromeda Galaxy. I was the sole occupant, the last remnant of the psionic containment team, a secret branch of the Intergalactic Exploration Corporation, tasked with anomalies that defied conventional physics. My final mission, to track and neutralize the emanations, reality distortions that emerged from random points in the cosmic void. My head still throbbed from the last psychic readings, a persistent hum that echoed the silent screams of shattered worlds, or perhaps shattered minds. That's how we found the first severe emanation, an anomaly orbiting an uninhabited planet, so vast its iridescent rings were like miniature spiral galaxies. It wasn't a tear in space, but a bubble, a fractured reality floating there, glowing with colors my eyes, trained for the visible spectrum, could barely process. The team, their memory was a scar on my mind. Dr. Eris Thorne, our xenolinguist, a woman of sparkling intellect and restless eyes, insisted the emanations were voices, whispers from a cosmic collective mind trying to communicate. She spent hours analyzing resonant patterns, sketching symbols that seemed to writhe on the page. Captain Valerius, a skeptical and pragmatic military man with a visible facial scar that narrated his own battles, saw only a tactical threat to be eradicated with concentrated fire. He trusted iron and fire, not the subtleties of psi. I, on the other hand, felt the truth in my bones. They weren't voices, they were echoes. Echoes of something that shouldn't exist. And worst of all, I was the only one who truly felt them, making me both the tool and the potential victim. Aboard the Peregrine, silence was my only companion. The control panels flickered softly. An unsettling contrast to the vivid memories of the last significant emanation. It was on Kepler 186f, a lush world of alien forests and rivers of light. It disintegrated in minutes, not into ash, but into an abstraction. I watched trees transform into impossible geometry, their trunks and branches bending at sharp angles that defied logic. The sky exploded in colors that caused permanent blindness to anyone who looked directly. My team, they became part of the anomaly. Their screams still echoed in my nightmares, not screams of pain or despair, but of comprehension. Of a knowledge that tore them apart, dissolving their minds into the vast, unintelligible tapestry of the void. It was from a fragment of Eris's communication device, recovered from the disintegration zone, that I gleaned the vital clue. A frequency she isolated in her final moments, a unique energy signature emanating from the heart of the emanations. It was a signal, but not a plea for help. It was an emission. A constant, monotonous frequency that resonated with something primordial, something at the very foundation of reality, a dissonant note in the universe's symphony. Eris had always believed communication was the key to containment, but her last act seemed to be guiding me to the anomaly's origin, not to interact with it, but to understand it. Days stretched on, each more isolated than the last, as the Peregrine carried me deeper and deeper into uncharted territory. I tracked the signature, following the trail of distortions through ghostly nebulae, where starlight bent in strange ways, and silent asteroid fields, with rocks that seemed to be intentionally oddly shaped. My sanity, a thin thread, was constantly tested by the side effects of proximity to the emanations, fleeting visions of landscapes that never existed, sounds that bent and distorted like whispers in an impossible language. Sometimes, I swore I heard Eris's voice, whispering incomprehensible equations or fragments of alien texts, but I knew it was just the echo of my own mind unraveling, trying to find patterns in the chaos. Then, I found it. It wasn't an anomaly in orbit around a planet. It was the source. A colossal structure, a dark, impossible mass floating in a stellar void, defying all the laws of physics we knew. It had no right angles or discernible surfaces. It was a geometric aberration that seemed to consume the starlight around it, creating an area of absolute darkness. From it emanated the signal Eris had isolated, pulsing with a force that made my teeth ache and the Peregrine's very structure subtly vibrate. I activated the Peregrine's cloaking mode, a technology that distorted sensory and visual readings, approaching with millimeter precision. As I drew nearer, The bubble of fractured reality around the structure grew denser, the air in the cabin crackling with energy. It was then that I realized what it was. It wasn't an accidental tear in the fabric of space. It was a seal. A colossal, ancient seal, engineered by a long-forgotten intelligence, designed to contain something, and it was failing. Slowly, but inexorably, it was disintegrating. The psychic signature I felt was not from one mind, but from millions. A silent cacophony of voices, not of beings trying to communicate, but of fragmented consciousnesses, clamoring for something. The structure was not just a seal, it was a prison. And what was inside was trying to get out, not as a singular entity, but as a dissolution, an assimilation. Captain Valerius was right in his intuition of threat, but his understanding was rudimentary, focused on physical battles. Eris was right about the voices, but they weren't from a benevolent collective mind. They were the remnants of the minds of those who had been absorbed. Trapped, I positioned the Peregrine with a surgeon's precision and activated the long-range scanners, focusing them to try and penetrate the energy layers of the seal. What I saw froze me, not from cold, but from a primordial terror. There was nothing inside the structure. Not a being, not a monster, not a creature with form. There was only a void. A void that pulsed with an incalculable hunger, an absence that devoured existence itself. The emanations were not side effects of the prison, they were the tentacles of the void, reaching into our reality, probing, trying to devour everything it encountered. The victims were not killed, they were assimilated. Their consciousnesses, their realities, added to the vast, insatiable hunger of the void. Eris's voice, clearer now, with an agonizing clarity, echoed in my mind, not as a memory, but as a final transmission, a legacy of her sacrifice. It's not something from outside trying to get in. It's something from inside trying to get out. And every time we try to contain it, we strengthen it. We feed it. The truth was a physical blow. Our containment mission was, in fact, a vicious cycle, a form of nourishment. My mission was no longer to contain. It was to hide. To erase the Peregrine's trace, to erase the existence of the psionic containment team. To erase any knowledge of this prison and the void it contained. There could be no records, no clues for others, in their ignorance or ambition, not to repeat our fatal mistake. I activated the Peregrine's jump drive overload system. Not to destroy the colossal structure, for I knew that would be futile. Instead, the overload would create an energy signature so massive and erratic that it would disguise the true nature of the seal, confusing anyone who tried to replicate our steps or track the anomaly. It would be a simulated explosion, a cosmic smoke screen on a galactic scale. I would release the last data probes, pre-programmed to send false and contradictory information, to mislead any potential pursuers who might be tracking the emanations. Then, I would direct the Peregrine into a blind jump, to an unknown point in space, where not even my scanners could find me again. A self-imposed exile, but a necessary one. The tremor began in the ship, a vibration that intensified, accompanying the roar of the reactor. The reactor core hummed with a force that threatened to disintegrate the Peregrine itself even before the jump. I felt the presence of the void, stronger than ever, a silent growl that tried to tear my mind, promising assimilation, the end of all pain. But I resisted. I had to resist. Not for myself, or my own fear. But for everyone else, for every piece of reality that had not yet been consumed, for every consciousness that still breathed under blue skies. When the simulated explosion echoed, a silent but powerful flash across the void, I initiated the jump. The stars elongated into lines, then transformed into an indistinguishable white blur, a tunnel of distorted light that pulled me away. For a moment, there was nothing but absolute white and the high-pitched whine of the warp drive tearing through the fabric of reality. Then, silence. I was somewhere. There were no visible planets, only a distant nebula of cool colors and solitary, indifferent stars. I had succeeded. The Peregrine, now a ghost ship, would continue its drift through space, a forgotten echo of a failed mission, of a terrifying truth that I would be the only one to carry. The hum in my head had not diminished, and I knew it never would. It had become a part of me, a constant reminder of what I had seen, what I had felt. I carried Eris's final whispers, the incomprehensible equations that grew clearer in my mind, the visions of shattered worlds, and the silent promises of the void. I was the last guardian of a secret that could not be revealed, a knowledge that, if shared, would invite the void to consume us all, and so, the Peregrine continued its journey, a lonely sentinel in the vast and indifferent cosmos, awaiting a day when the echoes of oblivion would grow too loud to ignore, when the seal would completely fail. And I would be there, the last to know, the last to bear the burden. The true mission had only just begun.